term, special needs children, because this is such a big term, right? What do we mean when we say special needs children? Over to you, Dr. Aminah.
Assalamualaikum. A very good morning, everyone. Thank you, our team from Kumam Superdad for having me today. I am basically not the expert in this area, but I would really love to share because we have common concern for our children. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. So special needs relate to various difficulties. You know, we see children, it's not just about children because we have the whole range of, from young to old. People who have various degrees of difficulties, either physical, cognitive, emotional, behavioral, or learning. Yeah. And the special needs that we normally deal as a child psychiatrist or in schools, common condition, we have children who has difficulty, delay basically in speech or language. Yeah. And then common conditions that we deal with are autism spectrum disorder, cognitive delay, and social and emotional issues, disorders, learning differences and disabilities. Okay, so understanding special needs require us to understand, okay, what is the cause of that situation in the child that deserve special attention. Yeah? What are the conditions that is affecting the person? And this can actually happen from womb to tomb because if we can address this, we can do better. If we can address this, we can actually help a lot more people because baby in utero, a fetus in utero actually will be affected not just by the genetic factor but the environment that the mother is in. Either the biochemical environment or the social emotional environment that the mother is in. And when a baby is born and until it grows older to be a toddler, to be children in preschool, primary school, secondary school, or they go into university, reach adulthood, going into middle age and become an elderly person. So the special needs actually might differ in terms of their presentation, in terms of the impact of growing older. The needs will be different because situation will be different. And this is where I think we really need to work. This is a very good initiative because we are creating a medium for us to discuss the needs and to collectively work to enable our children with special needs. It is our responsibility to try to understand a situation. For example, nowadays children who have, for example, hearing impairment, who has visual difficulties, they are more catered for because people are more aware. The education system are more aware about the need of the deaf and the need of the blind. So children, adult with deafness and also visual impaired, they get to go to university, they are understood, they are given what they need actually to enable them to achieve what they need. Even though I think we still need to do better than what we are doing, but when it comes to cognitive, social, emotional and behavioral, it is something which is I would say even doctors like me, we are actually not really very well trained. We need to be trained better so that we can change the environment where we actually help a lot of these children when they come to the hospital, to the clinics, so that we are able to identify what are the difficulties. And when we are able to assess, we are able to look into what is it that the child can attain, what is it that the child is not able to do, then we need to develop what is the necessary support, the necessary program, the necessary training that will be needed by carers. And it's not just about health system, because we need the whole population, yeah, to be able to understand about special needs. Yeah, maybe that has an introduction, Jamilah.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Aminah, for enlightening us on this subject matter, because I believe that it is an important starting point, that it can start from the womb. It is something that it's beyond your control, and this is where we certainly needs to understand, especially from the parents. And I think Jamilah mentioned one of the reasons why we wanted to have this session is to let other parents know and felt that they are not alone.
Yes, exactly.
You are, I mean, this is like, you know, of course the Liverpool fan will say you don't walk alone, but I also felt that this is not a situation, there is feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. So with that, Encik Ahmad, Fitri, Isahak, I think it's time for you as parent, coming from the other side of the fence, probably enlighten us. What is it in your, again, with some of your background, and what is it that makes you feel it's an important area to support parents in the area that you are in? Of course, Dr. Aminah mentioned there are various different aspects of this description, but from your own personal perspective then. Silakan, Cik Ahmad Fitri.
Right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Interesting questions. I think from just give you a little bit background of myself. I'm dyslexic. I'm president of Persatuan Dyslexia, Persatuan PSIDM, Persatuan Sokongan Ibu Bapa Dyslexia Malaysia. With regards to the perspectives coming from one of the segment under learning disability is being dyslexic. If you talk about parents who are having difficulty in getting this knowledge because when they're young or when they grow up to become parents, informations pertaining to all these things are not confronted head-on. It's when they themselves experience the difficulties, only then that they will try to gain information from any sources, advices from peers and whatnot. But again, those informations are there for parents to look up through Googling and whatnot. But more importantly, to get a social support from your peers or communities, which in Malaysia we still lack them, because I think now more and more people are into the internet. So what we could coin in informations at the fingertips. So they would be able to search the informations. But again, informations are one way. It is best to have information between two ways, where you have interaction with other people, with experts, with peers who have experience. And these are the things which the parents have to acknowledge, that there are certain things they need to find more information. Efforts have to be put forward between both the husband and wife, and to actually spend time and money to some extent to acquire the information and to make informed decisions for their kids. And this is important. And in context of PSIDM, for those parents who are dyslexic, who have kids who are dyslexic, or they themselves are dyslexic, they can come forward with PSIDM, and we have a sister organizations that supports for students, which is Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia, that focuses on in supporting students with dyslexic. So the focus for Parent Support Group Malaysia is to look into supporting parents who have kids who are dyslexic, who have grown up, who are dyslexic themselves, to move forward and carry on with their life as best as they can in achieving their goal or their dreams in life. So those are little things I just want to seeding for that, Fakhri.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think thank you for enlightening. I mean, I don't have any knowledge about dyslexic, but with some engagement, I mean, this is a good understanding, because people who are able, they read through their eyes. And then people who are blind, how do they read? They read with their fingers using braille. So the question now, I mean, for instance, the slow learners or dyslexic children, the brain needs time to process, and that's why the B become the D, and all those letters starts to interchange. And I think maybe Jamilah, what do you see from that perspective, and then from Dr. Aminah also?
Yeah, the thing is, just for everyone's information, Dr. Aminah and I grew up together. I remember very well when she was in school, she already had this burning ambition to become a doctor, and I'm so proud of her being able to join us today. And I'm sure with her wealth of information, I think she was just being modest to say that she's not an expert. I'm sure she is an expert, right? As a pediatric psychiatrist and dealing with children from all kinds of backgrounds, might there be some insights, valuable insights that you could share with us that you have gained in dealing with children with special needs? And it would be awesome if you could share with us some examples to illustrate these insights. Over to you, Dr. Aminah.
Thank you, Jamilah. Yes, we grew up together. I always tell my friends, you're my best friend during school. You are one of my best friends during school. And Alhamdulillah, we are doing something to help ourselves and our family and our society here and hereafter, inshallah. I never thought that I would be a psychiatrist, never thought that I'll be a child psychiatrist. Yes, I wanted to be a doctor from school days. But when I was in university, my mother said, don't be a doctor, because she said it's tough, it's difficult for you if you have a family and children. So I actually followed her advice. So when I signed up, I actually signed up for education. But when the offer letter came, I got medic, and my mother said, go. Alhamdulillah. It was always this connection with Allah in situations that I think you just leave to Allah to give what is best. And I think every parents or even people who do not have children to take care of children are also parents in a way. So we are being given another life to take care of. And I think this is very instrumental in dealing with special needs, because my exposure to children in psychiatry, when I was doing child psychiatry as a trainee in psychiatry, my exposure was a lot of child abuse cases, and I was telling myself I will never be a child psychiatrist. That was what I was telling. Even when my bosses were telling me, Aminah, go and do child psychiatry, I said, no way I'm doing that. But it was 1 month of covering a friend who runs a child clinic 1 morning a week. And I realized that how inadequate I am, inadequate the system is, where we are not really providing the right of the children, the right to learn, the right to be able to do the best that they can. Because, when people who are blind, we expect them to be able to do like other people who can see. We are not doing justice to them. But a child who is blind, then they are being taught to read, with the braille. They can really do wonderfully well. They can read faster than us, because the senses that we have is basically a gift. And the first thing that I think, the value of everyone that we see, the value of every child that we see, they are basically so important. Every one of us basically a gift from Allah. And every one of us basically, when we deal with people, we're dealing with another gift. So how do we treasure that? How do we value that? It's really like so invaluable, isn't it? Yeah. So it was true. If you ask me for examples, actually I learned a lot from parents with special needs. They are basically my real teacher, because when parents with special need, I think I perhaps want to relate a little bit about my childhood, where I have cousin actually who is actually bedridden. But I can remember when my father take us to visit this uncle and auntie, and I see my cousin, even though she is bedridden, she is a happy child. You know, she's much older than me. She's happy, and I see the way the more able cousins and my auntie attend to her with so much of love and with so much of understanding, with so much of trying to figure out what is the need. And that actually was, I think, being a child psychiatrist, then I realized that how much that has impacted me, because it was normal to have her in the family. She's being accepted, she's being cared for, her needs are being understood by people who care for her. And subsequently, actually, my sister has children with special needs. I has never regard that as something abnormal, because the way they were catered for by my sister and my brother-in-law was like, you know, it was acceptance, and then they do the best that they can for the child. And it was actually, I think those are remarkable events in my life that makes me see things differently when I actually started running the child clinic. And I'm so thankful to Allah that actually I ended up being a child psychiatrist, you know, because actually after housemanship, I actually prayed to Allah, said, put me where it's best for me here and hereafter. And every time I read the Quran where Allah says about our creation, where we said that, you know, Allah is our master, and there must be a reason, you know, why everyone are doing what we are doing. So in my work as a child psychiatrist, actually dealing with parents, I learned how parents are actually they try their best. And I meet groups of parents who actually work things out when the system is not working. When the system is not helping, they support each other, they learn. And actually my service, when I was in Johor last time, we actually learn from the parents group and we grow with the parents group. And we learn and we support each other. So I think that's perhaps that part. Maybe Mr. Fitri has a lot more to share.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Aminah, for your very insightful thoughts and reminiscing back on your childhood days, looking at people and that providing you the hindsight for how we all need to react then. I know, Fitri, one of the thoughts that came to my mind when she was talking about acceptance and care is the movie that was shown a couple of years ago. If people do recall this movie, the name of Redha, which is a beautiful pain, translated in 2016. It is about how the family is being confronted with the issue of children, autistic children. So, and one of the main issue was how the father in the denial mode, and I could see some parents out there, grandparents even, in a state of denial when it comes to accepting. I mean, Dr. Aminah talks about acceptance, which is already all fine and good and well, but there is a stage where there is, or a denial stage where there is that apprehension, and that's where I think the tension start to happen. So, Cik Fitri, as the president of the Dyslexic Parent Support Group Malaysia, so in your opinion, so what are some of the common mistakes or probably ignorance, oversight that parents and educators made when they are dealing with these special children then? Cik Fitri, help us.
Interesting questions. Okay. So there's two potentially parents can be educated as well, but we do it loosely, as in parents who within a household kind of mode, whereas educators are those teachers have a formal education. If you talk about parents, parents are generally learned parentinghood through their own parents' experience at the life that you go through as childhood. This is where there's nothing wrong about it, but again, different era require different ways of how we approach our children. I still remember when I was young, way back then, if you don't follow, you'll be disciplined by either your father or your mother, right? But for now, when we raise our kids in this era, Gen Y, Gen X, as per se, the approach of how we educate or teach our children, it's more towards psychologically approached with reasons. Only then they would abide and do the good deeds that they are supposed to do based on nasihat or advice from for their parents. So again, if you look at the when as a parents, when you look at their kids, again, it's through observations, and parents tend to make comparison between their kids, the elders, the youngest, how they behave, how they perform in academic, how they socialize, how they play. At the same time, parents look at their neighbors or their peers. There's nothing wrong with it. But again, it's just that sometimes parents forgot that each children has his own unique values, has a unique belief, has a unique strength and weaknesses. We sometimes tend to forget that we make comparison and saying that the other one is better than you because of, so it's not a healthy way to do it, actually. So they were God sent, so to speak. They are unique in their own way. They have their own strength. And if we were to look back at our kids, those who are working adults, for example, as compared to young adults and childhood, they've grown to where they are right now simply because of the environment we provide to them. Is it conducive enough at home? Are we providing supporting, positive encouragement to them? So we need to do that. We need to acknowledge and acceptance, as pointed out by Aminah. That's the first thing. And it's not easy, all right? For educators, we see time and time again that they, again, as if we're looking at a formal school, in a school environment, they are swamped with children, with a class of 20 to 30, maybe 40, to specialize and look at one specific, or our kids, is almost impossible. But again, one of the younger generations of educators, they tend to, or the behavior as they go through, they tend to call name callings, from stupid to something negatives, that demoralizes the kids at schools. And the more words are saying or to the kids, it's like reaffirming themselves that I am stupid, I am stupid, I am stupid. So again, the support from educators and through educations and information of knowledge is important. And we noted that the current systems in education, only special education teachers would have knowledge of special disability information from autism and whatnot. It will be a blessing moving forward to look into our education systems to also have that probably at holistic informations of learning disabilities and special needs should be at the general to populations of the educators. And again, these are the things, that challenge that we are facing, and we hope to carry on with working together with the Ministry of Education di sini. Cik Fakhri.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Cik Fitri. I would like to pose the same question that was asked by Cik Ahmad Fakhri to Cik Fitri just now. Because just now, Dr. Aminah did mention about how important it is for parents, educators, as well as the caregivers, the carers to accept children no matter what. I personally believe that children are gifts no matter what condition they're in. And yes, we do get it that we have to accept them as they are. But on the other hand, as unpleasant as we need to talk about the mistakes, the oversights that parents make, I think it would really help if Dr. Aminah, from your experience, perhaps if you could share with us what are the mistakes that have been made by these parents that we can learn from them and avoid, prevent ourselves. Either we are doing it, we should stop doing it, or something that we can learn from these mistakes. What are the consequences perhaps of these mistakes if we continue doing them? Over to you, Dr. Aminah.
Thank you. Perhaps I would basically share what I have actually learned to understand, because a lot of parents sometimes feel very guilty when they have a child with special need. They start blaming themselves, or sometimes the blame game can actually happen, within the couple, husband and wife, or within the extended family. So that sometimes can be a factor that can be improved basically. Yeah, when there is a lot of blaming, because we are dealing with different situation. A child with dyslexic, a child with ASD autism, a child with ADHD, a child with for example genetic disorders. The children actually they have different needs, but somehow they are children, they are human, they are a life being. Yes. So sometimes when the parents start feeling very upset when they have a special need child, when they start blaming, they become depressed, they felt guilty, they felt anxious. So basically it's really a lot of work to do on ourselves. I'm saying this as a practitioner who deals with children with all different needs. I'm also a parent, so it's really like looking into myself. How better can I cope? How better? What are my sources of strength? So I really need to like get back to Allah, get back to our Creator, get back to Him again and again and again and again and again and again. Because for all situations that we do not have solution, He has. And for all situations that we feel that we are not able to cope, it's just sometimes our Creator will send the good people to help us. And it was really like when I shared just now, I have no intention to be a child psychiatrist, even though I have interest in children. But I think my first week posting as a houseman in Johor, my first posting was like I was making a decision, no way I'm going to deal with pets. It was like you face situation. It might not be like the whole of the posting was bad, but there were situations where you realize that will I be strong enough to handle this, but the thing is that when I see the situation, that I feel that I am in the situation to create changes, so we need to work together.
Yep.
We need to work together so that that blame, because it's not just about in the family, because sometimes they go to doctor blame them, or they go to school, they blame the teachers, you know, that kind of thing. It's between all the different agencies, the blaming factor can go in. So it's really like, how can we actually improve things? Because we can see that a lot of parents really try very hard to improve. A lot of teachers are wonderful teachers, actually work very hard, but of course there are parents who actually uh, not able to handle that. And there are teachers, there are doctors, there are nurses, there are social workers, there are police officers, there are people, you know, bus drivers. Some bus drivers can be very superb basically, because they understand the children, they learn to see. Sometimes they might be the counselors for the parents. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it really depends so much about us creating a very more positive environment in our society.
Yep. Yep.
Because sometimes parents have high expectation of the newborn, of the baby, of the child, and the expectation sometimes is that the child can really like feel it. You know, they are a disappointment for the parents, for example.
Mm.
So it's really like, it's not just about parents, it's really about teachers and people who deal with, to really like, can we like look for a plan for the care of this child, and then can we actually carry it out with a lot of enthusiasm? It makes a difference. You know,
Mm.
a child who goes to school being well accepted by a very cheerful teacher will look forward to go to school. It doesn't matter they are having special needs, but you know, and a child who goes home to a parent who makes them feel so good, that makes a lot of difference. So it's really a lot of work on us, a lot of work on people who deal with children,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's very tough for the parents to accept the
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with the right support, it's really sometimes change of mindset,
Okay.
really change of mindset. And I think I am so fortunate because once I started doing work with children, I think I started to learn more and more and more. I think I meet a lot of wonderful people. You know, I learn about, for example, play therapy, you know, things that is not being taught in medical school. I get myself exposed to sensory therapy, you know, sound therapy, and while working with groups of parents, for example, one of the group that actually I learned a lot was the Autism Association Singapore and the Dyslexia Association Singapore. I really felt so thankful that, you know, because I was covering my friend, and I started realizing what the parents were doing, and then we get connected to the Singapore team because I was working in Johor that time, and it was really like I was telling myself, I wasn't
Adam,
actually a
yang
child
before
psychiatrist
it
that
comes
time,
to
but
PCG kan,
because I was
the
looking
screening
at
tu
what
semua,
the parents
maknanya
were
dia
doing,
lepas screening tu
what the
baru you akan pass
teachers
dekat
in
I. Kalau
the
dekat kita orang.
association were
So maknanya
doing,
kalau
I
dia
was telling
memang
myself,
ada, dia
is
fall
if
under
we
kategori
can
yang
do
kita tak
this,
akan
if they are
sponsor, you
able to
won't even
create
pass to us lah kan?
such a remarkable changes
Okay,
for the
okay.
children with special needs through their intervention, I'm very sure we will be able to do a lot more to help, you know, not just the special need, but also the children who are not in that special need group, because everyone is special basically.
Mm.
So to be able to really like achieve better than what we think we can achieve.
Yeah.
So that's basically to share a little bit about I think the things that we can improve, so that we can stop the blame game. We can start working together, we can start learning to appreciate each other. We can start learning to be grateful for what we have, because I have seen that over the last actually over the last 20 years dealing with children, I've seen the struggle that my colleagues in education, my colleagues in welfare, my colleagues in police, my colleagues in Ministry of Health, actually the efforts that are being made. But we need to definitely do more, but there were a lot of efforts already being done that need to be supported, need to be understood, need to be actually helped further.
Yeah.
So maybe on my part, that's
Yeah.
that's the great.
Thank you, Dr. Aminah, for that. Certainly, this is the hard truth. When you finally discovered that your child is having some special needs, and there will be this issue of blame game, and blame game doesn't help us to move forward. It just sort of make the situation worse, especially for the child. And this is where I wanted us to come back to how the feeling of the child, because when people say about OKU, I mean, people will define it as orang kurang upaya, but I want to now completely remove that definition by saying that it is orang kuat upaya. Orang yang kuat upaya, they really want to contribute, they want to say. So one of the things that I realized, Cik Fitri, is that when they have other siblings and they start to compare themselves, and I knew some parents said that even the children ask whether it's my IC, my passport, am I adopted son, because the other sibling were sort of normal, and they start to wonder why they, and this is where the blame game between the parents has added more tension. Now we're handling the sibling who makes whatever remarks. So, Cik Fitri, help us now. How can we try to improve the situation when it's from the perspective of the child?
Okay. When a child open up on a discussions about themselves to the parents, it's a rare moment where they are trusting us to give advice, to say advice, and whatnot. As you have, if you have in the house, if you have a conducive environment whereby allowing your child to freely come to you for advice or whatnot, or chit chat, that's a good sign of healthy family house. And from my experience, I have two kids who are dyslexic actually. One is an adult, working adult, who is now age 25, who's doing into chef, and it's a different character altogether as compared to the youngest child, who is mild dyslexic. So both cases have different needs, and parents have to understand their needs. And for my adult child, who is at age 25, his journey from childhood to young adults to a working adults have different, what we call liku-liku hidup lah, different challenges is being thrown to him and to us as well in managing where he become right now. And as parents, I would say we have as parents, meaning it's a collaborative effort. It's always a communication that always has to be open between myself and my spouse, my wife. So that communication channel between the segitiga, so to speak, the triangulations between myself, my wife, and a child is open. Sometimes the child will approach the father or the mother. This is where we need to recognize that as a parents, it can be acceptable in that mode because they have that trust and level of openness to the parents. But once we, in a way, ill-equipped in those scenarios as parents, it's a call for us to look for information, to source out, to look at peers, to get that advisors who from those who are already have good. We see how they raise their children into a better person, for example. Because advice is free, it's true, but be careful when you seek advice to people who are may have a negative influence towards later. It will be a negative impact to your child as they grow up. So that is important. So again, we need to have that in terms of coming back to your question, Cik Fakhri, with regards to a denial from the parents, is one of the parents have to, or if it's not the parents, the siblings among themselves, their parents will look into it as well. The information pertaining to your kids or the grandchild. That kind of supporting network has to be there as well.
Yeah.
If it's not, otherwise we need to go out and seek to the parent support groups out there, to the experts for advice and support.
Yeah. Thank you for giving some good tips, Cik Fitri, because I think it's important for us to understand what kind of support and network that is required. Again, we come back that we don't want you to feel that you are alone in this journey. There are people out there, there are experts out there, and also internally and externally resources that can hand you then. So before we move to Dr. Aminah, I want to take the opportunity to have a commentator from a mother, all the way from Johor Bahru, Dr. Siti Rokia. She's from UTM, and we had an earlier chat with her about her situation also. And Dr. Siti, can you just sort of unmute yourself, as well as you can also show yourself, because we wanted to hear and share with us what's your situation and how do you move forward with your daughter who is having hearing challenges, so that then we could enlighten your experience to the rest of the other parents then.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Encik Ahmad Fakhri, panelist, Dr. Aminah. I've met you before when you were in Johor. Yeah, it's very familiar, and I'm very happy that I meet you again, although via the Zoom, and also I'm so blessed to hear from Encik Fitri as well. So I'm a parent of a young lady. She's already 40. A young lady who has profound hearing loss. And she is now teaching Kafar, the Islamic education in the evening that they have in Johor. And she's a teacher there, teaching the children. I'm happy for her. And a little sharing from me is that I think every parent who encounters something different from the so-called normal will have this feeling of despair, anxiety, blaming, all the sorts of things which we have stated and which we have met in other occasions. I think that need to be settled first. The acceptance, as Dr. Aminah and Encik Fitri has mentioned before. I think that acceptance is very important. And for me, it took 1 year. And from my research, I did also some research related to parents with children with hearing loss for my PhD. And it can range up to many years. And if we can shorten that period of accepting, that will be better, because after we accept things in whatever occasions, usually after then we can do things, we can take actions. So for children with hearing loss, it's very important they are being diagnosed as early as possible, especially before they miss that language period, which is around 2 to 4. And some, because of their denial, and also the other people are also playing their role because of the so-called obsession with normality. Yeah, people are so obsessed with what is normal, whereas we know actually normal is constructed by the society. You know, we are so obsessed with the physical. When somebody has something different in terms of physical, we look at them strangely. When people talk slightly different, like my daughter, I taught her how to talk from the very beginning because I was inspired by Helen Beebe's speech and hearing therapy clinic in Philadelphia. And since then, I adopted this speech. And of course, there are other people who adopted other methods of communication. You know, when each time my daughter speak in public, which she doesn't care, people will turn around, and I know that question mark, you know, an adult body with a childish way of talking. So the first thing is that if we can hurry up the acceptance period so that we can accept things as fast as possible so that it can be diagnosed, and after that things can be taken. There are so many other things, but I think for the moment that may be sufficient. I've run out my 5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, it's very enlightening to hear from you, Dr. Siti.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's great. In fact, in fact, for people who know that there is a town in Indonesia that talks about 80% of that community, kata kolok, which means deaf talk. 80% of them are using sign languages in that community. So it's normal to use sign language in that town because 80% are using that, because when you said that it is the construct of the community.
Yes.
So I think that's where we as community, if we begin to appreciate some of these challenges and try to be inclusive in this diversity of what people say from the norm, so that then people feel that it is a norm. It is something that is an acceptable norm. So I think this is a very remarkable way of helping people to accelerate them feeling that they are okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
and they're not different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I feel that it's very enlightening. And to hear such success stories to me is very refreshing.
Thank you.
Because I often feel that parents with special needs children, they have got, I mean, raising children who are not considered as special needs are already challenging, as we know it. You know, what more if your children do have special needs, right? So thank you for your comment on that. Now we move on to Dr. Aminah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, most welcome, Dr. Rokia. We move on to Dr. Aminah. I wanted to ask you about,
maybe we can have Prof say a bit more, Dr. Rokia.
You
Yeah.
wanted to, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
right.
Dr. Rokia, a special request from Dr. Aminah for you to extend your time, and we are perfectly
Yeah, that's
fine.
fine. You know, we have enough time to sort of. So the place is called Bengkala. Yeah, Bengkala in. So go ahead and.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aminah. I'm so blessed to meet you and everybody here. Yeah, I have a lot to share because I've gone through it. You know, my daughter is 40 years old, so I've gone through all the stuff that young parents encounter. It's quite similar, actually. Of course, there are uniqueness for each parent, but there are things which are similar. So the first thing is about acceptance. And I think the second thing is how do we move on from there? If you talk about challenges, I think this is a very common question. I believe that it can be divided into two kinds of challenges. One is the internal challenges, which is the challenges within ourselves. Usually we become scared or we become anxious. Many reasons due to thinking, what will people say? How do my child cope later? All this unknown question. And I think I feel very blessed to hear Dr. Aminah said, we something like, which I rephrase, we do what we can do and leave what we can't do to God, to Allah, right?
Yeah.
And that is the meaning, actually, is tawakal. That is the essence of tawakal. We do what we can do. But the question is, how much can we do? And that is where I'm so excited. The answer is, we must do our very best. My motto is, if our child is special, our parenting has to be special.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling, oh, I have a child, I cannot cope. If Allah wills it that way, am hasibatum annama khalaqnakum abathan wa annakum ilayhi la turja'un. Everything is not in vain, it's not created in vain. There must be reason. So in general, parents are chosen to become parents, right? Because parenting is a very special job that no company can pay us. There's no money that can compensate for the job of parenting. So that's why it cannot be paid. And on top of that, Allah gives a gift, as Dr. Aminah said, and Encik Ahmad Fitri, a gift of a child that will bring the good and the best out of us. I think if you are excited about this, having this mentality, I think the rest will become small. The other challenges become small when we have a goal. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I think I've talked too much.
Yeah,
Dr. Aminah and Encik Mak Fitri is yours.
yeah. Just one more question,
Yeah.
if I may, Dr. Rukia. I know that you are now working on a special initiative, a school for the deaf. If you don't mind to share with us.
Can I now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
You.
This intention of having a special school has been long in my mind, in my heart, in my soul since my daughter is small, because I found the excitement of having a child with special need because it made me very special. And I wish to extend that so that everybody else can feel special as well. I mean, actually everybody is special, right? Since we are on this earth. But with having special needs children, there'll be extra bonuses there. So this intention of having a school is still in the conception phase, and it has not materialized on land yet, even though I have already a land in Temerloh. Welcome everybody to Temerloh. Please come and visit me later when it's ready. And the idea is to have actually an integrated school where it's a normal school, ordinary school, where children with hearing loss can join the school and be part of the school rather than feeling alienated or feeling burdened. That kind of atmosphere. So the details will come later, I suppose.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you
Rukia,
very much.
yeah, I'm always inspired when I hear of parents who put in extra effort. It's not a bit of effort. I'm quite sure it's huge effort. Now we move on to Dr. Aminah. I would like to ask you about adolescence, that period of time when human beings, our children, even ourselves have gone through this. It's a period of change, looking for identity, and they are even more sensitive to whether they are being accepted or rejected by their parents and other adults as well as their peers. So my question to Dr. Aminah would be, what are some common concerns of teenagers with special needs that you have encountered? Over to you, Dr. Aminah.
Thank you. I think people with special needs go through the different stages of life as well. And teenagers actually is another area where I think we need to address because they are not children, they are not adult. So there is a special need to understand the changes that they are going through, what actually bothers them, because different teenagers will actually see things differently. But definitely this is a period where they are looking for self-identity, and sometimes they need the people surrounding them to actually support, to understand, to guide. Acceptance is another major important area, because for example, if teachers who actually handle teenagers, when they are able to help the child identify the issues that is affecting the teenager, speak to the teenager, then actually it opens up an area of discussion with the child, with the teenager. And that actually can actually make or break the teenager. Yeah, because I think it's one of the a concern that we have. I think, like you said earlier on, the talk on suicidal issues was actually very well accepted by the previous session, because suicidality among teenagers are on the rise. We have real concern. We really have, we really have to address this, because and it is not an individual job, it is a collective job. So it is like a situation where I have never come across where children come to me and say that somebody committed suicide in school. But we hear this nowadays. Children come tell us, for example, somebody jump in the area where they work, or somebody jump from school. So it is, you see, over the decades, the trends that is happening. So we really need to address the needs of teenagers. What is affecting them psychologically, their emotions? Are they affected by a lot of online issues as well? Because sometimes bullying, cyberbullying is actually very real. Yeah, abuse that is going on also are very real for a lot of these teenagers, because sometimes in the need for friendship, they can be manipulated, because at this stage sometimes acceptance of friends are so important.
Yeah.
So guidance from people, from carers, from teachers, are actually very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Cik Fitri, you seems to have wanting to say something there.
Yeah. How do
In
you
your
handle
panel.
these teens, the raging
Yes.
hormones period?
It depends on the whether it's male or female juga. There's a different approach, betul lah, Dr. Aminah.
Yeah, male and female, yes.
For because when they are at that age, teenagers, their thought process, to some extent, they able to think themselves, able to rationalize to some extent, and this is where the reasoning come into play, the understanding of what do you call that, the between actions and consequences. They have to understand whatever they do or whatever choice they make will determine what's going to happen in the near future. Hence the idea of allow them to give them space for them to express themselves. But normally myself and my wife would do an approach of given the pros and cons, and then allow them to think through and to allow them to decide. But again, the decision that they make has to be with a follow through of behaviors change if need be. So the parenting doesn't stop when they go out of your house. To the point where when they get married, only then, to some extent, we in a way let go. But it's always continuous, and always allow them to have the opportunity to come back to us, to voice their concerns and whatnot. It's how we behave as husband and wife. They would see it. Those are the things which allow them to exemplify, to get some positive behaviors from within the house. So opportunity, we need to allow them to have that kind of space. But ultimately, we have insights or wisdoms as parents at a certain point to allow them to let go, or like playing kites, you still hold the lines. You don't let go 100%. Yeah. So that's my thought process.
Okay.
Right. So right now, we are actually, before we open the floor to question and answers, we would like Dr. Aminah to share some thoughts. She does have some slides which she would like to share with us, right? If you are ready, Dr. Aminah, is that all right?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
bit
Okay.
of
Right. When we talk about special needs, I think we need to really look that just a moment, yeah. Yeah, is this clearer?
Better.
yes, better.
Yes, okay. Each and every one of us are made of cells, yeah. The physical part, and of course the other one will be the spiritual part. But I think I would just want to address that, our cell in our body, in our system, is really like we are made up of zillions of cells, because within our system we also have the microbiome. We have bacteria in our system. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to listen because
Hello? Yeah. Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah. So we have in our gut system, we have trillions of cells, bacteria as well. So next, yeah. This is just a picture indicating, each cell, every cell is like a house. Within the cells itself, there's so much of organelles, different types of organelles, things that do different things, different responsibilities. It's just like so amazing. Our creator is just so scientific, so awesome. It's just like, we just like, I really remember when I was a medical student, when it was like classes for trying to understand about cell. But now I see it in quite a different perspective, because we really need to look at what is affecting our cell. Yeah, because I think most people are here to try to understand what we can do further, what we can improve further. Next, please. These are all the different cells in our system. We have all the blood cells, the nerve cells, the nerve cells that affect our neurological function, our learning, our understanding, and so on. And our intestinal cells are different. Our white blood cells are different. Semen and ovum are different. The bone cells are different. So even like the blood cells also, we have different types of blood cells. Yeah. Next one. I think this is next. Yeah. This is yes, about cellular health. So sometimes children with special needs, they might be affected by genetic situation, yeah, because of different genetic condition. But we need to address about environmental. Okay, we need to address, maybe our speakers also, our host can also talk a little bit, because I think Jamilah and Fakhri are doing a lot of good things about nutritional health. Yeah, what are the deficiencies and the impact when we are deficient of certain nutritional food? And the other aspect about nutritional food, about the presence of amino acids, the basic amino acids. That's why we need to really look into food that actually enhance cellular function with good amino acids, because these are needed for the body processes. Gut health, our gut health is actually so crucial. And circulatory health, the blood flow, because it brings all the good nutrition. It removes, help remove, detox from the system whatever is actually harmful, because we are exposed to a lot of toxin in the food that we take, sometimes the water that we drink, and the air that we breathe. Yeah. And on top of that, the toxicity from harmful events like the electromagnetic wave, yeah, EMF, and the extra low frequency waves. And we need to really look into activities that help improve our muscle health, endurance, and recovery. The water that we drink is actually very important. The healing water is very important. And things like that can harm us, toxins that is in the air, that is in, for example, the soap that we use, and so on. Infection and also infestation, viral infection, infestation with parasites in our system can affect. And as I mentioned just now, the EMF and the ELF, because nowadays we are being bombarded by all these electromagnetic fields and also extra low frequency in our, because we don't deal with the Wi-Fi maybe 30-40 years ago, but we are dealing with that. This is a part of the thing that we are actually facing. So when we talk about what can we do to improve further, maybe we need to look into all these things as well. What are the things that we can help improve our cellular health? So it's really about looking into the special need in the more global aspect. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for sharing this crash course on the medical perspective, and indeed something that we need to keep on upskilling ourselves on this knowledge. I'd like to just redirect everyone to the comment made by Sister Hannat Al-Hinai from Muscat in Oman when she talks about being to be inclusive and for these special needs children. And both Jamilah and I had the privilege when we conduct our research on parenting in Australia, when one of the head, the mistress, the principal mentioned about in Australia at the kindergarten how children interact with those special needs children. So she cited a very specific case of a child who cannot speak, who cannot express himself other than using an iPad. So when the teacher was talking and suddenly this young boy of about 4 or 5 years old wanted to say something, and the entire classroom, which his friends, able, normal children, paused. They stopped to allow this child to write the things in the iPad so that then he can be able to have the airtime to ask his clarification. And I think that was an amazing when kids at that age began to accept and support their own colleague. And this is where an environment that we need to nurture, we need to allow our children to recognize that and then not to stereotype. And the last thing we do with all these movies, when you see people with anybody who is different and they start to jeer and start making unnecessary remarks that would not do anything but just harm to them emotionally, psychologically. And thank you for that, Sister Hannat, for such a powerful reminder. And I just, towards the end of the session, if there is any burning questions or things that anyone, maybe one or two, before we wrap up this session. But so, by the way, for Dr. Aminah or Fitri, what are your resources that parents can go? Is there any way? And I know that Fitri already talks about the Dyslexic Parent Support Group Malaysia, but is there any resources or anywhere that people can go to if they need further help? Go ahead then.
Silakan Dr. Aminah dulu.
Dr. Aminah?
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think nowadays I would like just want to mention about the initiative taken by the government basically, which I think has a very good, you can see that it's helping a lot of people through the, previously was the Permata Kurnia program.
Yes.
Permata program, yeah?
Yes.
Because Permata program, now they call Genius program. And I really felt that this is a very good move by the government of Malaysia, because you can really see that, you know, through the presence of Permata Kurnia, the Genius Kurnia program, it has really helped a lot of families with special need children, especially autism, because they are moving to help others with special needs as well. And I think the name Professor Hasnan Harun, I think is everyone would possibly have heard
Yes.
how her initiative, the effort that she has made over the decades, basically. And this is something that we need to duplicate. We need to duplicate the good work. We need to duplicate the good work that is being done, so that, for example, if the Genius Kurnia in Sentul is doing a good job, it should be duplicated in other places as well, in other states and other districts, because because it should be available to as many children as possible. And actually, I think the teacher who taught that the Autism Society Singapore has really made a big impact on me, because when I saw her, because she was showing videos of their intervention, I was telling myself, oh my God, if this is helping autistic children, it will definitely help a lot more normal children. So it's really about changing us, changing people who care for children. And another effort that I think we need to really help support the Ministry of Health, because if you go anywhere in the whole country, definitely we have hospital, but we also have klinik kesihatan, the health centers. And we have health centers that is actually run by our family medicine specialists.
Oh.
Yeah, in the hospital, we have pediatrician, we have developmental pediatrician in some hospitals, we have child psychiatrist in some hospital, but in almost every state hospital, there are pediatrician. And of course, in district hospitals, I think nowadays we also have a pediatrician, but in any health centers, in quite major health centers, we have family medicine specialists, and they are also being trained to assist children with special need. It's really about how much can we also get the society, get parents to support the family medicine specialists in their health centers, so that they can also develop, because it's not just one way track. It's not just about teachers teaching, it's not about doctors serving, but it's also really about us working together to do what we can to move forward, to help all the children that we see, because the special needs are actually very diverse, because we see children who can be normal, but they go through events in life that make them require special attention, special services. So it's really about us trying to see what are the needs and what are the resources that we can pull together and help the children and the families. And also support people like me. Yeah, we need support as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Aminah, for your
You're most
enlightenment. And certainly it's a very practical, very useful, and indeed we need to continue this effort. The Fitri, over to you. You gave us your phone number to contact midnight hours, I think.
Because if I would pick up off office hour pun, kalau perlu sajalah, and then mau tak mau pun WhatsApp is quite straightforward, can be contacted.
Yes.
Just for information, for sharing, the PSIDM centers is located in Kuala Lumpur. The same, we share the same premise as Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia. So for parents who wants to have discussions or talks, advices, they can contact me. But those who want to have assessment as well for their kids who are possibly dyslexic, then we can channel you to our sister organizations, which is PDM, that looks into interventions at the early age of kids, starting from 5 age of 5 and above. And the focus of PSIDM is to look into supporting parents, imparting knowledge and support in terms of assessments, for informations for kids who are being diagnosed as being dyslexic. One of the good thing Ministry of Education's recognize in Malaysia for those who are dyslexics to have a special support at in schools. We have schools dedicated for learning disabilities, but also certain quarters of schools, they have special teachers who are specialized in dyslexic. But again, those are limited edition schools throughout Malaysia. Still is not enough. And just to share the information, statistically in Malaysia, we have been recorded under Ministry of Education's over 11,000 school-going children who are dyslexic. Yeah, but again, if you were to look at worldwide dyslexic statistics, it's between 5 to 20% of the populations are dyslexic actually. So given the fact that year in, year out in Malaysia, we have roughly about 400 to close to 500,000 students, school-going children, that does not reflect the percentage as compared to the world statistics. There are a lot more to do, but again, we do applaud MOE efforts thus far. And not only that, the society associations that we work together with recognized parents and experts, we continue on going because it's a never-ending story, but it's a journey that we work together. So for those who want to seek advice, counsel, and whatnot, you can contact me, and we'll be able to channel to the right team members to support you.
Yeah.
All right, Fakhri?
Yeah, that's great. You know why I'm thinking about this dyslexic ever since, because you know the children start standard 1 from kindergarten, and you can see that some of them are struggling. Kindergarten, you may not be reading yet, but in standard 1 and above, you are expected to read. And when we have slow learning disabled, and if teachers just give their remarks that can just kill the spirit of the children, that really is going to have an impact for them in the long run. I mean, I heard children coming back home saying that cikgu kata saya bodoh, cikgu kata I am stupid. I mean, not realizing, and again, watching some of those movie about how these children had to confront, it's really painful. And I also wanted to highlight to you about Dr. Siti has mentioned about the Hill of Hope Center, which is an integrated school. So you can contact her through her Gmail address, her UTM official address if you want to follow up, and also anyone amongst your friends, family members that require certain attention. I mean, so we have one question at least that we need to address.
From Cik Nurul.
Siapa bagi? Oh ya ke?
About about autistic individuals who can act aggressively. Is there any data compiled or research done in Malaysia on this? She has an autistic daughter, but also in the legal fraternity. So this is a concern. Perhaps Dr. Aminah.
Dr. Aminah, how do you handle this aggressive situation?
And even if it is true at all.
Yeah, yes, I think just a moment, yeah. Okay, right. Aggression in autism can actually happen, but not all autistic children are actually aggressive. So it's really like something, was one of the things that we need to understand. Whether much research being done, I'm so sorry, I'm not sure about any research being done in Malaysia. We still have a lot more to be doing actually. One of the things that this is where I think autism is such an amazing area, because I really learned to understand a lot more because it was my exposure to parents dealing with children with autism. And one of the things that we need to understand in children with autism when they become aggressive is actually a lot of times actually why is this happening? What is actually disturbing? So sometimes, for example, they can be hypersensitive to certain situation, to certain sensory. For example, I think most if we have been pregnant before, or if you have wife who had been pregnant before, sometimes they might be able to cook certain dishes before pregnancy, but during the pregnancy it was just a big no, because they will just throw out, they just cannot tolerate. So it's that changes in senses happen. So it's really like trying to understand in children with autism, the senses can be hypersensitive that you cannot comprehend, so that's why we really need to understand, is it the tag on the shirt, is it the smell, is it the vacuum, something that is actually uh hurting them without us
Bothering.
able to understand that actually it's hurting them. So if they are being hurt, it's a normal response to react in a way that seems to people that is abnormal. Yeah. So sometimes it's really like trying to understand, and this is where the multidisciplinary intervention is very important. Yeah, it's not just about seeing a doctor, but occupational therapists, psychologists, physiotherapists can really, a nutritional specialist will also make a lot of difference. So this is where sometimes I recall when many years ago I was seeing a set of parents, mom and dad, who were so desperate because they were quite small size, and mom was feeling suicidal because they just can't cope with the aggression that they had with their teenage daughter, who was actually quite big size, and mom was feeling very suicidal at that time. And what happened was, this teenager, yes, she has autism, and but what we discovered later was she was fully aware that her sister is going for a school trip and she cannot go. So her
Mm.
frustration, it's difficult for her to tell what she was frustrated about, but it come
Yeah.
up in terms of her behavior. So it's really about trying to understand what actually trigger, and if we can actually do something to prevent, prevent and help children. That is why I think one of the good place for people to try visit will be the Genius Kunya program, because
Yep.
they teach children to do breathing exercise, to do relaxation, so they will know, before they get they burst, they know what to do.
Yep.
These are the things that we implement. And what parents can do when for example, most Malaysians do pray, and the Muslim, we pray 5 times a day. Get the children involved, in the gist of prayer. That is basically about calming ourselves, to turn back to our creator, to turn back to our master, to turn back to the writer of our books, to the writer of history, so that things will come up better for all of us. So that would be one of the things.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope that helps.
Yeah, thanks.
Definitely,
Thanks,
definitely.
Dr. Aminah, for enlightening us on the subject of aggressiveness. Quick one question to Encik Fitri with regards to this reading intervention. What's your opinion in terms of the current demand when it comes to how we can help these dyslexic patients or children? Over to you, Encik Fitri. Quick one.
Okay. The question was to look into what is the current demand in reading intervention programs, especially in Malaysia context. Generally in Malaysia, the school systems is local language. This is Bahasa Malaysia. There's certain aspect of schools which is private. They're more inclined towards English medium in teaching. with regards to intervention programs on reading, not all schools provide those kind of services simply because there are not enough teachers or special teachers who are capable with knowledge on dyslexic interventions. So it is just, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are less than 100 schools in Malaysia who has that support systems in place. So with the help of PDM, there are branches across different states. We are extending those services in terms of how to bring the children to become readable level when they go to schools. So a lot of the time when you, as a dyslexic, if I may, a dyslexic, it's a situation where a person have multi challenges in their life. For example, they have reading difficulties. They have hard of understanding in terms of math concepts. They have written disorder. They have difficulty in their fine motor skills. They have difficulty in processing sounds. They are clumsies. They reverse letters. They have troubles understanding spoken language. And there are instances where they are also ADHD, which is hyper interactive. So there are combinations of these can look into a person who are dyslexic who have reading difficulties. Some would have a multifacets of conditions. So reading is a fundamental thing where it would help elevate the students or the kids to become more independent. Through schools is the formal way of doing it. Yeah. So yes, right now, Persatuan Dyslexia Malaysia, the PDM, they have a method both English and Malay. When it comes to there are other research and methods overseas, made in US, UK, Australia. They also have a way of interventions. One of the way to improve English is what's the word? I can't remember the author of the books. Author Ellingham, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I have myself have difficulty in recognizing the words that are being used many a times, but when I try to recall, I have difficulty. I have to refer back the information. Somehow the information is not registered in my mind. I guess it's just a matter of interest that it will stick to the mind. And yes, there is a need, there is a method, but again, it's by choice. If it's a formal education, there is a methodology being implemented under MOE, Ministry of Education di sini. Right, Cik Fakhri?
All right.
Okay, thank you very much, Cik Fitri, as well as Dr. Aminah.
Yes, author Gilham approach, that's the word. Yeah. Terima kasih, Cik Wan. Cik Wan has Puan Razina.
Yes, Author Gilham. Yes.
Yes, I feel that we have had such insightful session. I learned so many things myself, and I feel that it's so important for us. What I gather from the both of you is that it's so important for us, everybody, not just parents with special needs. We as a community need to pull our resources together, because it's not just some kind, it's not some parents out there having problems. It's something that we have to have the courage to make time, pull our resources together so that we can render whatever help that is needed, right? So thank you again, everybody. And as usual, Ahmad Fakhri would like to wrap up with a few words.
Yeah, I would like to make some announcement, but again, as what Jamilah has mentioned, we hope that if you have come earlier feeling helplessness or hopelessness, this session would now start to make you feel that you are hopeful, and it has been helpful just by understanding the clarity, just staying calm, and then gain the confidence for you to have the commitment. So there's a few announcements that I wanted to share with you with regards to next month's program. So as Jamilah has mentioned, this month we are talking about raising special needs. Next month, we are going to have parenting styles, and now we're coming into different aspects of the different approaches. Now, past, present, and future, because we are dealing with different generations. So I think we have two speakers, Ustaz Hasrizal, all the way from Ireland, and that's why we are having it on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. And also Professor Datuk Dr. Harlina Haliza Siraj as a ONG, and both of them will be the panelists to talk about this interesting aspect of parenting style, even post-pandemic. Then I suppose then you can register by clicking the message at the chat that Jamilah has shared recently. The next thing is a part of Cool Mom Super Dad. We would like to offer you to have this signed copy of this by going to the Cool Mom Super Dad website. You get a discount up to 25% if you buy in bulk, and you will get free delivery since you cannot go to the post office and the sort of in Malaysia. Only in Malaysia, the Omanis, you have to come to Malaysia and you can purchase that then. So that's one of the announcement. And for those of you who missed the earlier or partially this session, we will be uploading the recording in the YouTube under Jamilah Samian at the later stage, so that then you have a more time to then listen with your friends and colleagues then. And then, so we hope that this program certainly has enlightened you into the program then. So I hope that we could be able to then engage more further. We welcome you, any of your suggestions.
Yeah, you can always drop us an email or send us a message on WhatsApp to tell us what you think, any suggestions for future topics, for example.
Yes, yes. So hopefully then. So with that, thank you very much for your participation. And Fitri and Dr. Aminah, all the best. And we hope that in the future engagement, we may have other content program that you would like to share then. With that, let's close. Yeah, we close our session with Tasbih Kifarah dan Surah Wal-Asri. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Wal-Asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus solihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Sadaqallahul azim. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
How do I no anything habis lah the whole thing.
Stop recording.
Stop recording.